Steve Borthwick's announced the England team to play the All Blacks.
Before we get into England versus New Zealand preview, please like this video and subscribe. We will bring you loads of videos throughout the Autumn Nation series and beyond. Right then, Coley, talk us through the England team.
Well, the headlines, Ben. George Ford starts at 10, and Marcus Smith is on the bench, and Finn Smith drops out the squad entirely. Tommy Freeman is injured, so Tom Roebuck comes onto the wing, and Freddie Stewart's at fullback. And in the pack, Finn Baxter, Jamie George and Joe Hayes start in the front row. In the second row, Big Red Ollie Chesham is injured, so Alex Coles joins Captain Maritoji. And in the back row, not to blow my own trumpet, but the back row of Sam Underhill, Ben Earl and Guy Pepper return like they did against Australia. And that's the one we kind of predicted in the show. So, yeah, that's the team, Ben. What are your thoughts?
Coley, you called that back row, to be fair. What are my thoughts? Right. So Freeman is a loss, no doubt about it. That is a loss. I actually thought the back line would be the same as what we saw against Fiji. But when I look at it, you're looking Roebuck, you're looking Freddie Stewart fullback, you've got George coming back in at 10. I think this weekend England will go back to similar to what we saw against Australia, where it'll be 2 to 3 phases, momentum based. If they've got speed of ball, they'll keep playing. As soon as that breaks down or slows up, they're going to go to the air. Tom Roebuck, we saw him assist 2 tries against Australia. His connection with George Ford, of course, playing in Sale together. I think you'll be looking at aerial crossfields, trying to pick out Roebuck to disrupt, trying to pick out Freddie Stewart in those wider channels and almost simulate that. I wouldn't be surprised if early on, I think they did it last year against New Zealand, where they hit the middle of a line out, go to almost a contestable kick, like box kick from the middle, and try and disrupt, try and get over the top of Will Jordan and the back three of New Zealand. So for me, I look at it and think England are probably going to go back to a 3-4 phase, more of a territory game, more of an aerial battle, and try and almost win those unstructured to then come alive.
I totally agree. I look at that team, I look at Ford, Roebuck, Stewart. I think England are going to, inside their own half, they won't play. They'll put the ball in the air, make an aerial contest for those guys. I think the back row, when you look at, say, Pepper, Earl, Underhill, they're guys that can dive on that loose ball, make it a defensively solid in the middle of the field, hit things, carry the ball. And then, yeah, I think England will, they'll play in the right areas of the field, like we've seen when England go against teams, I said before, when England go against teams that are probably ranked higher than them or potentially better than them, England will try and, say, muddy the game up a bit by making it a contest in all our facets of the game, the breakdown, the air, everything. And then when England, hopefully they'll stay disciplined, win the penalty count, and when they get chances to come alive in the opposition 22, whether that's turnover or set-piece attack, they've got, George Ford, the master of it, putting people in holes.
It's crazy to think, Coley, that this time last year, of course, George came on and he copped so much unnecessary shit for that game against New Zealand.
George Ford was booed. Right, okay. I think that game was a turning point in the George Ford narrative because George Ford got booed. A year ago, it was like George Ford was the least appreciated bloke in world rugby in some regards, in the fact that he came against New Zealand, hit the post of the penalty, then missed a drop goal on the back of a shaky scrum. And like the week after, I think got booed, some ungodly reason against Australia coming on the field. And it was just, at that point, it was like George Ford was, we were saying how not bad it was, but how underappreciated George Ford was, and this narrative was all totally false. And it was really weird. But then you fast forward a year, and especially that year that George Ford had at the back end last year, rebounding from that in regards to how he played, how he led. And I'm not going to lie, I think some of the media hyped up to the point where George Ford could do no wrong. We were always balancing the fact that he's always been good. He's always played well. The dip isn't there. He's basically just been good all the time, but it's people's perceptions of how he's played. And I think, you look at this year now, 12 months later from where he was a year ago, and how good he is. Been to Argentina in the Six Nations, all those games he played where he's led England, put them around the field. And I think people, which I'm all for, fully appreciate what George Ford brings, and rightly so.
Well said. Last 12 months ago, he got shit, and it was bollocks, and it was wrong. He should be appreciated, should be celebrated. 12 months later, he's got another shot against the All Blacks. The shirt's his for this game, and he will feel very confident about going out there. And I know how he's thinking, mate, his mentality. We know exactly what it is. He'll approach this game. He'll be leading this week. He'll be getting every detail right for the group. He'll be preparing the whole team as well as looking after his own stuff. And I do not be surprised if you see a massive game from George on Saturday. And rightly so. Because as you said, Coley, as you mentioned, wrong. He should be celebrated, should be applauded. And last year he wasn't.
Even if George Ford doesn't put in a man of the match performance, say, he will make everyone around him better. You know
Correct.
what I mean? The aerial contest for Roebuck, he will put the balls up there, and Freddie Stewart and stuff like that. He'll put them on the money for them to look good. He'll bring Dingwall and Ollie Lawrence into the game and make them look good. He'll make his forward runners, like against Australia, where Ben Earl runs through a line and scores but gets held up like 40, puts him in that hole. You know what I mean? So he'll make everyone around him look good. And you'll say, whether he has a man of the match performance or not, the team is better for him. And I think that needs to be appreciated.
Also, Coley, it's from a leadership point of view. So when you look at, let's just go from the back row onwards. So Guy Pepper, doing a great job international rugby, but learning his way. Ben Earl, like been exceptional this autumn, carried on, been great for England, no doubt about it. But he's an energy giver and he's a doer. He's not really a tactical guy. Sam Underhill, go around, bang things. That's his actions. That's how he leads. Mitch, busy, energetic, but quite calm, not going to necessarily bark the orders in terms of tactical. You look at Fraser Dingwall, inexperienced. You look at Ollie Lawrence, another guy that's got experience, but just goes on and does his business, doesn't like to shout too much or bark orders again. Someone that just follows. Roebuck the same. Manny Feo-Bosa the same. Both fairly inexperienced, are just doers. Freddie Stewart the same. So you look across there. You need someone like George Ford. You need him for his leadership, his tactical ability, his ability to calm others. Because make no mistake, Saturday is huge for England. They have 9 on the bounce. Out of those 9 games they've won, they've only beaten one team in the top 4 in world rankings, and that's France. This is a huge opportunity for England. I'm backing them to do it, no doubt about it. But you need someone like George out there just to steady it, just to calm it, to give that presence, give that leadership, give that tactical nous, and everything like that. Because you'd say if England start the game like Scotland did, and they go 17-0, and George wasn't out there, you'd be going, my gosh, you need someone out there that can absorb it, think about it, reset, and drag everyone with them. And he does that through the way he speaks, how he tactically sees it. And everyone knows and respects him so much because they see him every week, turn up every day, tactically be brilliant, drive standards, drive the message, push the group forward. So when he says something on the pitch, everyone's all in on it. And I think that's also a big decision why he's starting, mate. I do. I think it's around looking after those guys in and around him, mate, because they're going to need help. They will.
You look at the games played in Argentina, where he commanded like the backfield and putting the ball in the air. And I think with New Zealand, they play multi-phases, right? And I think sometimes, a bit like England-Fiji, it's like they go multi-phase. So England, the opportunities, you get the ball and it's like, we've got to keep hold of the ball, we've got to play, and then you force things. I think George Ford will go, literally, if New Zealand play 10 phases, turn the ball over, Fordy's going to go, right, do it from the other end of the field, you know what I mean? Put New Zealand back in the 22, make them play out from the other end of the field, as opposed to trying to engage in try to out-rugby New Zealand. And Fordy's smart enough to be able to go, and we'll take it on it and go, he'll do the right thing. And, he will make the right decisions for the team to make sure that it puts England in the best position to try and succeed.
We've got a comment from Dave Price on Instagram, and it says, don't understand leaving Finn Smith out. Thought he was a really good game on Saturday. To exit the squad is odd, to say the least. Just on that, Coley, I feel like we've probably answered it in the sense of it's the leadership aspect. Finn Smith is a very, very good 10. He's a Lions 10. He's an England 10. He did nothing wrong at the weekend. He played well, I thought. He's got a great relationship with Alex Mitchell and everything like that. Sometimes it's not regarding the playing ability. It's just who's best suited for this game. And when you look at New Zealand at home and you look at who's out on the pitch at that time, there's a lot of experience potentially not there. So how do you manage that? And I think that's where George probably gets the nod for this weekend because of the Dingwall outside him, Mitchell inside him, the wingers. And equally, yes, there's tactical parts of the game that he knows. Steve's worked with George. He knows he'll deliver in terms of the territory, the exits and everything like that. And at the weekend against Fiji, it's one thing we highlighted on our Monday show is what would have disappointed Steve or what was disappointing for people watching was the fact that when England scored and they received kickoffs, they did not get out of their half. You cannot do that against New Zealand. You just simply cannot do that. And George will get England out their half. There won't be any messing around. He'll exit well, and you can't give New Zealand opportunities. So it's no reflection of Finn Smith. Finn Smith is a fantastic player, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Just for this particular game, George is best suited because the experience situation and I think managing that early exchanges of a test match.
And I think Marcus, obviously being on the bench, because you've got a 6-2 bench, Marcus covers fullback. If you do need to chase the game later on, Marcus can come on and bring spark and beat a man and win a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-1. And, you know, he brings that energy. And I think that's why he gets on the bench over, say, Finn Smith. Positional versatility, and also he's probably 1-on-1 individual. You know, he's the other end of the spectrum, say, not the other end of the spectrum to 40, but you know what I mean? You have a balance of both those two players, what they can bring.
We've got a comment from Mark. I love George Ford, but I worry about him under pressure, it says.
I don't, Mark.
Yeah, I've played with him, Mark, and I don't worry about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend him. I think he's proved his mettle in more than enough pressure situations. Everyone makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But I back that man to do a job.
Do you know whose fans love us, Coley?
Australia?
Wrong.
Wales?
Wrong.
Scotland?
Correct. Scotland. That is why we're going to Edinburgh the night before the Calcutta Cup game, and we're going to do a live show.
We're going to be at the Queen's Hall. So if you're a Scotland fan, come along and boo us or cheer us. If you're an England fan, come along, boo us or cheer us. But it'll be a great night.
And 6 days later, we will be at the famous Shepherd's Bush Empire in London
for the ultimate Six Nation special. I don't actually know what that means, Ben, but we'll make it up as we go along.
We've got time to think about it. We'll figure it out. But we'll be in London. England are playing Ireland, so we'll have stories, special guests, and plenty of games.
I might even do a drop goal.
I might even do some singing.
Because maybe...
Please don't. I've got a question for you. Tommy Freeman, he's injured, so he's going to miss this game. A, how much of a loss is he? And B, if he was fit, do you think he plays on the wing or at 13?
That is a cracking question.
Can I give my opinion?
Go on, yeah.
I think he played 13, and I think you keep aerial. I think Feoboso brings you a spark. I think Roebuck for the aerial contest, and Freeman plays 13 because of everything he brings, rather than putting him on the wing instead of Roebuck. That's my opinion.
I do think that could have happened, but what I would say is I then think, what would you do with 12?
I go Fraser Dingwall.
You still go Dingwall. So it's really interesting, isn't it? Because Freeman's out, and Ant Watson even said on the show last week how he'd have him. He thinks he's top 5 winger in the world right now, and I have to agree. So Tommy Freeman is a big, big loss. I think that the way England will tactically go after this game, I do believe Roebuck would have started on the wing. I do believe Freddie would be at fullback. Come to think of it now, I know I backed the same team to play again, but those guys were both injured, so I didn't know they were going to be fit. So they're now back in. It shows there that they're going to go to the air more. So I think Freeman at 13 could have very much been in, Coley. I think you're right. Would they have gone with Dingwall? Would they have gone at Ollie Lawrence to go for a power, the two centres? Because the one thing, when you look at the setup right now of that back line, is just there's going to be a lot of responsibility to play, make and create opportunities for 9, 10 and 12. There's quite a lot of responsibility. So we've got great runners. Ollie Lawrence can break tackles and make something happen. So can Manifeo Obosu. But when I look at actually who's going to create opportunities, as in make space for others, create edge opportunities for those guys to actually light it up and do their thing, there's going to be a lot of depending on 9, 10 and 12 to try and create those opportunities.
Well, I think that's why Dingwall would get the nod for me, because he is that sort of second distributor in the back line. And I think, international level, you need one, and especially when the ball does get to him, it's making smart decisions, and some of that is just the easy option of giving it to Ollie Lawrence to carry up the guts, or you know what I mean? But he just has that ability to add a bit of width to England's attack when they need to come alive, especially in the opposition half. So yeah, that's what I thought.
Where England will miss Freeman as well is just his football ability, and what I mean by that is his now sort of knowing tactically when to put the boot on the ball on the wider channels, kick him behind and do things like that. So Manny's a fantastic runner. What an athlete. But he's not necessarily got those subtleties to his game yet in terms of the kicking stuff. Tommy Roebuck, very similar. Brilliant in the air, excellent in the air. Hustles down, defensively brilliant. You can see, I've already seen him in the first game against Australia, getting those wider channels, getting those passing lanes, getting in the eye line, making the attack, come back in so they don't feel like they can get it over the top. He's brilliant at that stuff. Again, he can kick in behind things like that. But I think for me, Freeman out of those back three is the most complete footballer in terms of kicking ability, rugby IQ, kicking behind, managing the game, managing those exits, backfield coverage and all those bits.
I think Freeman also gives you a bit of physicality. You go against New Zealand and the wingers are Like, yes, they're incredible athletes, but they are quite happy to mix it up and just like gnaws edge breakdowns and try and counter edge breakdowns and make it a mess. And I think, Freeman has that guile of good football ability, but he also has that sort of physicality just to buy extra couple of seconds on the edge for, just clear outs and stuff like that to happen so the ball's playable. Whereas I think, you lose that physicality. It's, which is only a split second or two. It'll be interesting. I think that England potentially missed that without Freeman, but there are other guys to step up, and England probably won't be playing loads of rugby in the wide channels until they need to.
The other thing with Tommy Freeman, of course, is his versatility. The fact that he can now cover centre or play in the centre. And with Marcus Smith being on the bench with Ben Spencer, it very much seems that a Pollock or a Ben Earl will be covering the midfield if one of them goes down. Well, a question from Jess. Tom Curry is arguably the World Player of the Year. Why is he on the bench?
Two things. Again, I said this the other day on our review show. Tom Curry he's so good. He could start. He plays across the back row on the bench. For England, I think he's probably getting the best 80 minutes out of, say, the 6 shirt or the 8 shirt or the 7 shirt. You know what I mean? So actually, you can start those guys and Curry can come on with 20, 30 to go and he's just going to lift the game and add to it. And it counts against him because he is so good off the bench starting. You know what I mean? Whereas I think like Curry, say, running 50 minutes and starting to, not that he tires, but he runs 50 minutes and you have to bring someone to replace him. That maybe is a lesser overall effect than having someone go for 50 and then bring Curry on for 30, which is one thing. I think the second point, if you look at England's bench in general, which is the next question from Gibbs on Instagram, which is about the replacement front row looks stronger than starting front row. Test matches like this, if you're going to make them tight, get decided in the final 20 minutes. And I think you look back to the year ago when, I was included. England lost loads of test matches in New Zealand. Those 3 test matches they played in New Zealand, lost a couple in the final 20 minutes. Especially when the scrum went to shit. We were also leading at home at Twickenham, Allianz, Twickenham, and we saw about George Ford drop goal, but New Zealand went ahead there. Australia, same thing. Like a lot of games were decided in the final 20 minutes of test matches, and I think you look at the POM squad, that entering the field of play, revved up, ready to go. I think A, that's where test match is decided, but B, it just gives England such a boost. And I think the start with the tactics, I think the starting team keeps it close, but I think those guys come off the bench when the game's decided, when it needs to be won, you have the quality there to do it. And that's why a man like Tom Curry is on the bench.
Look at Scotland at the weekend. In it. Right in it till the end. Probably just New Zealand just had a bit more coming on. A bit more nous, a bit more experience maybe, being in that situation. Look at South Africa, France, last 20 minutes. Same thing. Look at New Zealand versus Ireland, first game in Chicago, last 20 minutes, and what that looks like. For me, it's becoming more and more important about who is on the field at the end of the game. What do those last 20 minutes look like? Because so often in Test rugby, so often, and I could eat my words here, I could, but it's normally an arm wrestle. Games like when you get the big teams together, it's an arm wrestle for the first half, first 50 minutes or so. There isn't a huge amount between the teams. There often isn't. So for me, when you unleash these guys, whether it's 30 or 20 to go, and you bring it on likes of Gellis Genge, you bring it on Luke Cowan-Dickie, you bring it on Stewart, Chandler Cunningham himself to carry, that's what you need. Those final 20, 30 minutes, you need power. You need carry power. You need to win the collisions, the gain line. Yes, you need the tactical part of it, but the backs look after that. For me, there's such an emphasis now on the bench in terms of what the forwards bring and the power and the set piece battle and everything like that. For me, highlights how important it is. And Razzie has almost just shown the world with what he's done and what he's done for a number of years now, and how at times he has some of his best players coming off the bench with 20, 30 to go. And I think other teams are now starting to follow suit. You look at what France did last week, Coley, you highlighted it, didn't you? Where, yes, the scrum got hosed, don't get me wrong, but they went for a younger front row to start with, feeling like they'll be in the game, and then bring on the more experienced one in the second half. And I think you're seeing teams really sort of flirt with that idea.
In some regards, I think it's easier. The start of a test match, yes, it's tense. You want to set the tone and all that kind of stuff. But I think, yes, it's almost more important to have your best players on the field at the end of the game, because that's where games are decided. And I think like the tactics and how you can tactically make it close to the first 50. And I think at the end, you know what I mean? But then I think as fitness fatigue falls off, as skill sets fall off, having that added boost and bringing people on to bring their own individual talents at that point in the game, that's almost more important now than having to start. Because at the start, I think those kinds get countered out by the occasion, the tactics, and two teams feeling each other out and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I also think what Marcus gives you is if England are chasing the game with 20 to go, you've got the forward carry power and the collision power. But what you can do is unleash him at fullback to be that extra playmaker, create more opportunities as such. So I think that's also a reason why Marcus potentially is on there. Yes, he's got versatility, but I think if you need him in that situation, he can come on and be that extra distributor, extra playmaker with 20 to go when you've unleashed your Genjis, your Dickies, your Chandler Cunningham-Souths, your Pollocks, your Tom Currys, your collisions are winning. So yeah, it's a smart play from England. It makes sense. It makes sense to me.
It makes sense. And so it'd be interesting to see how much like the psychological thing, because like if you start all those Lions, say, and play for 60 minutes, but then you're bringing on young guys, there's no disrespect to the bench. I think everyone in the England team is fantastic, but New Zealand's almost looked like, oh, we've survived that 60. Now potentially there's younger guys who don't know coming on. Whereas actually, if you have it the other way around, you know what I mean? Like 50 minutes, you go, oh, we're in a test match. And then you bring on a load of Lions, you bring on this experience, and it's kind of like the opposition goes, fuck, this has got even harder. You know what I mean? Like it's hard enough for 50 minutes. Now it's going to get even harder. And I think, there is a psychological, like we've seen with the bomb squad in South Africa, I think there is a psychological thing where it's, you get to 50 minutes and it's like, oh, we've survived. Now they're bringing on lesser players and we can accelerate. Whereas now it's like, you get to 50 minutes and it's like, oh God, they're bringing on even better players.
Exactly right. And look, this is the perfect game for England. I'm really optimistic about the way that England are heading, the depth they're creating. You can see that. You can see within the squad, the fact that we've mentioned some players that aren't involved this weekend. It's no reflection of them. They're fantastic players. It's just highlighting the depth that England currently have. They're 9 in a row. They've beaten France out of the top 4. And this is a great opportunity against New Zealand. And I cannot wait for it.
Oh, I'm excited. I think it's also important just for the, like we talk about the mentality of the squad. And yes, go 9 in a row. But I remember when we used to play, like, you don't play the Southern Hemisphere very often. And often you go down there on a tour, end of the season, you get filled in. And like earlier in our career, you kind of got filled in. It's like, oh my God, you're invincible. Whereas like now, like you don't play New Zealand very often. So you get a chance. It's almost proven to the squad that it just reinforces the journey you're on, the belief you have in the squad and where you're going. And, these games are hard to win, but you win one. It actually energizes the team and gives you even more confidence. Of yes, we're 9 in a row, but now we're beating the best teams in the world, and we can do it. And like you've had the guys on the Lions tour beat Australia in Australia, you know what I mean, and learn in that environment. You have guys to Argentina and beat Argentina in that environment, but to actually beat a South Africa or a New Zealand in your own country, I think it could only galvanise the team further. For the love of rugby.